All right, if you live in Oklahoma, you have definitely had a moment where you thought your heating system was, I don't know, possessed. One day it's on, off, on, off. The next, it seems like it's running a marathon. Well, we're going to get into why that totally confusing behavior is not just normal, it's classic Oklahoma.
So, does this sound familiar to you? You hear the furnace kick on, it runs for what feels like 5 minutes, and then silence. Then, maybe a half hour later, it's the same thing all over again. It's enough to make you think the thing has a mind of its own, right? Or, hey, maybe you're on the other side of this. It's the middle of winter, but your heater seems to be on vacation, just kicking on for a quick little burst in the morning, and you start to get that little bit of anxiety thinking, is this thing even going to work when it actually gets cold? Well, I have some good news for you. For the most part, you can probably stop worrying. What you're seeing, it's not a sign that your system is broken. It's actually a sign that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do in our kind of crazy Oklahoma environment. So let's break down why that is.
Okay, so the real key to understanding your heater is to just accept one simple fact. Oklahoma isn't like other places. You know, all that generic advice you read online, a lot of it just doesn't apply here. And there are some very specific local reasons for that.
Really, it all boils down to three main things: our totally wild weather, the fact that we have all sorts of different houses from different eras, and this is a big one, the fact that around here, cooling is king. Let's look at how these three things mash up.
First up, and no surprise here, it's the weather. Our climate basically forces your furnace to be a jack of all trades. One day it's got a super light load, just taking the chill off. The very next day it could be in an all-out war with an Arctic blast. And that constant switching back and forth, that's really the root of all this weird behavior you're seeing.
And I'm not exaggerating here. I mean, we've all seen it. A 40, even 50-degree temperature drop in just 24 hours. A heating system in Oklahoma has to be ready for literally anything, from a pleasant afternoon to a hard freeze overnight. So, of course, its runtime is going to reflect that chaos.
Reason number two, our houses are all over the place, architecturally speaking. You might have an older home with practically no insulation. That thing loses heat like crazy, so the furnace has to run constantly just to keep up. But then you compare that to a brand new, high-efficiency home that's sealed up tight. It holds onto heat, so the furnace barely has to work. This means the exact same furnace can act completely different from one house to the next, even on the same street.
Okay, now this is the big secret. The thing you have to understand is that your HVAC system, it wasn't really sized for our winters. It was sized to survive our absolutely brutal summers. The analogy I love is it's like using a monster truck to go pick up groceries. It's way, way oversized for that job. So what does it do? It gets the work done super fast and then shuts off. And that is your short cycling in a nutshell.
All right, so we get why our systems act so weird. But what is all that weirdness actually trying to tell us? Let's decode it. Think of it this way. Your heater is talking to you through its cycles, and we're about to learn its language.
So at its most basic level, every furnace follows this really simple sequence, no matter where you are. The thermostat, that's the brain. It calls for heat. Then the control word gets the furnace to ignite. And finally, the blower pushes all that warm air through your house until you're comfortable. Pretty straightforward, right? This part is the same for everyone.
But here's where things get tricky. All that national advice is written for places that have these long, predictable cold seasons. But Oklahoma's reality? It's a total mix of pretty mild days punctuated by these short, intense cold snaps. So what's considered normal furnace behavior somewhere else is completely different from what's normal for us.
So the big question is, how do you know when your system is just being, well, Oklahoma normal versus when it's actually crying out for help? To make it easy, we're going to build a really simple traffic light system to help you figure it out. This right here, this is the whole idea in one sentence. It's one thing for your system to act differently when the weather changes. That's just variation. It's a whole other thing for it to get slowly but surely worse over time. That's deterioration. We're on the lookout for a downward trend, not just a quirky day.
Okay, let's start with the green light stuff. This is all completely normal, nothing to worry about. You see short cycles on a mild 50-degree day? That's just your oversized system doing its job really fast. See it running for a long, long time during a deep freeze? Yep, that's just the system working its tail off to keep up. And that blower fan that keeps running for a minute after the heat shuts off? That's just a safety feature, cooling down the guts of the furnace. Oh, and if you have a heat pump, that defrost cycle is totally normal too. If you see any of this, you're good to go.
Now let's talk about the yellow light zone.
These aren't emergencies, but they are your system telling you to pay attention. Are those short cycles happening more and more often, even when the weather isn't changing? That could be a sensor going bad. You start hearing a new rattle or a weird hum. Maybe a part is coming loose. If your system takes a few tries to actually ignite, that could be something as simple as a dirty sensor. If you notice these things, it's time to schedule a checkup. It's like a whisper before it becomes a shout.
And finally, the red lights. These are the absolute, no questions asked, stop what you're doing signs. If you smell gas or fuel, if your carbon monoxide detector goes off, if you can actually see flames coming out of the furnace cabinet or see soot marks, shut the whole system down right away and call for emergency service. This is all about your safety, period.
Okay, so we've been through a lot. Let's boil this all down. What are the key things you need to walk away with? We're going to wrap this up with a simple, powerful checklist.
Think of this as your new homeowner's mantra. First, expect your system's behavior to be all over the place, just like our weather. Second, always remember it's a cooling system that just happens to do heating. Third, know that your home's age matters a lot. And maybe most important, learn the difference between a normal cycle and a real sign of trouble. And finally, trust your senses. Bad smells and weird sounds are your first line of defense.
So there you have it. You're now a much more informed Oklahoma homeowner. You're empowered with the knowledge to actually understand your heating system instead of just worrying about it. So the next time you hear it kick on, you won't just hear a machine, you'll be listening to a language you now understand. So my question to you is, what will you be listening for?